Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Afrikana Film Festival. It is that time of year, and we are here. This is Afrikana's 5th year, a milestone festival. So we are making it what it is today, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I am Omilade Janine Bell. I'm the president and artistic director of the Alegba Folklore Society. And I am so happy to be here with you, and welcome to join me in this conversation, filmmaker Nina Angela Mercer. Her film Invocation is one that we've just enjoyed. Nina, can you come on in and join us?
Hello, Omilade. Thank you for such an enthusiastic welcome.
Well, it's that time, right? You guys have made something really beautiful happen and contributed volumes to the festival. And we also have Luis Vasquez La Roche. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, Omelade. Thank you for such a great introduction.
So your film is I Cried So Much I Felt the Universe Pass Through My Eyes. That's a lot. Tell us a little bit. I know that our viewers have enjoyed the film, but if you would describe it to a stranger in a sentence, what would you say?
Well, I think in a sentence, I think if you look at the subtitles in the film, there's a collection of phrases that I extracted from my journal between the years 2013 to 2016. And I guess the visuals of the sea kind of like relate to those sentences. So that's kind of like more or less like a really short version and synopsis of what the film can be.
Yeah. I look forward to getting deeper into that. And Nina, Invocation, same question in one sentence to a stranger, somebody who's never seen the film, what would you say?
I would say that it is literally, I'm invoking the spirit of Jose Antonio Aponte, who was killed in Cuba, in Havana, Cuba, in 1812, after being discovered to have planned a rebellion, which is known as Aponte's Rebellion. And so the piece is calling on his spiritual energy, but also the energy of rebels and resistance in honor of Black power and self-determination all throughout the diaspora.
Absolutely. And I felt all of that. I've got some follow-up questions for you about that. But one thing that was common was each of you commented about diamonds in the sea. As a lament, Luis, as a righteous demand, Nina, as a healing cure. So tell us what your notion is of water as a conduit, as a carrier, as a transformer, as a place of memory, as a container. What is this notion of water? There was a vastness in both of your films.
Well, I'll jump in really quickly. I don't want to be silent. You know, it's better to speak, we say. So, you know, because invocation is at its core, you know, it was created to honor this legacy of the spirit of abolition and resistance to enslavement, resistance to imperialism and white supremacy. We leaned very heavily on the recurring image of water, the ocean, but not as water in and of itself. We were, of course, invoking the Middle Passage, and the ocean as Iemoja and also as Olokun. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if we are leaning into the Yoruba language and culture and heritage, we could also invoke Kalunga if we're speaking more of the Bantu Congo.
Mm-hmm.
But in either case, no matter what linguistic group or ethnicity, no matter what region the enslaved Africans came from, they came over the ocean. And it becomes in our collective history, in our collective imagining, it becomes a birthplace as well as a cemetery. It is womb and cemetery. It is the home of our ancestral knowledge, even, that it
Mm-hmm.
is an archive. And so, um, also, though, I want to add that because Jose Antonio Aponte was a militiaman, was cosmopolitan, had traveled outside of Cuba on the waterways to fight as a militiaman, because information also often came across the water. Information about the Haitian rebellion would come to, the Black Cubans on the water. We had to elevate it, right? Because it
Yeah.
is also still that force that connects us all.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of those things, conduit, transformer, carrier. With you though, Luis, it seemed that the water was a different kind of place.
Yeah, for me, it was well, very similar to Nina. Obviously, like water just means so much uh, to the African diaspora, um, the Caribbean Sea, the Atlantic Ocean. But I think for me, the reason I think it was based more like on a personal experience for me.
Yes.
It
I,
was based also like reading through Christina Sharp's In the Wake of Blackness and Being.
mm,
So that's such an important book that resonated so much with me. I continuously in my practice mentioned the wake. So and how much so much the past overlaps into the present and potentially into the future. So for me, something that's is well, I think at the core of what my video, the reason why I mentioned water, I think one of the phrases that I mentioned is like, water gives life, water takes life, and the reason why I mentioned that is because my younger brother, he died in a drowning accident. So for me, water just becomes that thing that became so close
yes.
for me. So it's
Yes.
like the sea holds so much memory for me. Water holds so much memory for me, and even like the mention of the diamonds, it's like something that for me at that moment when I wrote that, it was so much. It was like this moment of like looking at the sea at 5 p.m. in the Caribbean coastline and thinking about how beautiful it looks and how difficult it is to look at it, but how mesmerizing it is that I cannot stop looking at it. So such a place that is like the Caribbean Sea, that is such a place that it holds such a heavy history and memory. So yeah, I can I can go on forever to talk about the reason why I mentioned diamonds in the water.
Yeah, it seems that for each of you, because you spoke, Nina, about Yemoja on the top and Olokun on the bottom. And so the nature of water being multidimensional and many things, and Luis, you spoke to this as well at once.
Mhm.
a giver of life, a holder of life, a beckoning of life, a place of memory.
Yeah. I think very often, we have a tendency, or some of us have a tendency to look at the world through these lenses that are like it's good or it's bad, and
Mm-hmm.
if it's good, there can't be some trouble in it, and if it's bad, or this idea of the light and wanting to live in the light and be in the light, but focusing in that way, it brings imbalance. And there is so much wisdom and knowledge to be gained in the depths of the unknown and in the darkness of our suffering.
Ooh.
There is great strength there. And I wanted to draw on that and amplify that because while the piece that I created was more a call for all of our people and an energetic call for our collective ancestors, it's also rooted in a very personal truth, that we must learn to navigate the darkness without judgment, in order to make it to the other side, so.
Without judgment, and then maybe also without fear, even in the face of fear. And
Yes.
so, with the two of you, because Louise, there seemed to be in your perspectives on this water and the stories that it held for each of you, two sides of the same coin. For you, Louise, there was a question. Why? For you, Nina, there was a declaration. I felt, oh, yeah, and the machete in your hand saying, wait a minute, this is
Yes.
going down.
Yes.
There's a sense of being time bound and
Mm.
also timelessness. There's a
Yes.
sense of hope and also hopelessness. You talked about balance, Louise, a sense of surrender. Louise, I felt from you a sense of surrender, and from you, Nina, pursuit, that warrior spirit, the individual and versus the collective. What are your thoughts about that? Because the whole sense of water is really simplistic, yet it's so many things.
Yeah, that's this is yeah, this is so true what you're saying. I don't know, like that story, at least for me that story with my brother doesn't end there, but it tracks so far back in time. It's kind of interesting. Like if I kind of like start recounting through like family history, like on my father's side, everybody was in the Navy, with the exception of my father. He was in the Army.
Oh.
Or, when I was like a little kid, I almost drowned, and my mother was the one who pulled me out of the water. But it's like always like this avoidance between, water and death. And until that moment with my brother, for me, it was kind of like, why are we always like wrestling with you? Why are we so afraid of you? You're so powerful, like, and you're continuously in our life, just like kind of like talking to us. So yeah, it's like the sense of surrender that, okay, like I guess you won. I understand how, you know powerful you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe even a gift. Maybe not so much you won, but maybe there was somehow in that transition a gift, a loss for you and your family, but somehow a gift in the more universal way of thinking about things. You know how we make sacrifices to the deities, we make sacrifices, offering food and so forth to our ancestors. Maybe somehow, there's more. Nina, what are your thoughts about these polarities?
Yeah. Well, I want to say that it's difficult for me to talk about this film without talking about the full context of its being born. And this kind of relates to, I think, your question, Omilade. Um, so the piece was this invocation calling on this spirit of resistance that's grounded in Jose Antonio Ponte's story. And it was part of an exhibition that was dedicated to Jose Antonio Ponte. And that exhibition started in Miami at Art Basel, and then it went on. I mean, it was at the little Haiti Cultural Arts Center. Edward Duval Carrier, Ada Ferrer, Tasha Grantham, Laurent Dubois, Linda Rodriguez. These were all the curators, but brought in the art of Black artists from Cuba, from Haiti, from the New Orleans, that from the Dominican Republic. There were artists from all throughout the diaspora represented in the show. And as I thought about the water that connects us, those of us who are people of the diaspora, and I thought about that water and the spirit of Yanja, because the piece was also speaking back to one of the paintings that Jose Antonio Aponte created to help plan and inspire rebellion in the sugar plantations. Okay, so
Okay.
I was thinking in my mind, and in this particular painting, Yemanja is blessing two soldiers, and then there's also another interpretation of it that calls on the history of Diogenes, and it's a Greek mythology about, and it really elevates a way of being that pushes back against the status quo, or pushes back against, society and the standard way of doing things, because that's what Jose Antonio Ponte wanted. If you're going to rebel, if you're going to resist, you are going for complete system overhaul, right? And I was thinking about all of this in connection to our now. So wanting to draw on this catalyzing force that he visioned in Yemanja, and also in the connectivity of the diaspora, that would be more powerful than the nation, the empire that was subjugating his people, and
Yes.
so for me, it's like this water and the histories that are archived in it, the ancestral knowledges archived in it, um, the life force, because that's a force, we know your lineage is fierce.
Yes.
That's, we talk about these water energies. On her day was yesterday, Oshun's day is today. We talk about these, these archetypal feminine energies. Okay, ain't nothing archetypal about them, because it's fierce warrior energy. Okay, fierce. I wanted to bring that to us today and say, you know what? Whether you're in Trinidad or Haiti, or you're in, Nigeria, in Lagos, or in Joburg, or Salvador, DC, wherever you are, as Black people in the diaspora, we are beyond the nation. That we have a power, through channeling this waterway, that's just, we have what we need to fight if we just keep remembering it. So, that's what I wanted to give to people who came in there. Even if you didn't really hear me say that exact thing, I was hoping that the spirit would be ignited.
Yeah. Go ahead and teach. Go ahead and teach and empower, Professor. Let the people know what time it is. Don't be
I
scared.
mean, we don't have time to waste. No.
Okay, the time is now. And so you really spoke to a question in terms of what you want us to experience inside the film as aspects of ourselves. Luis, what do you want us to experience inside your film as aspects of ourselves?
I think, well, let me, because I also have to like, now that Nina also kind of like frame her video. I think I also kind of like have to frame that video within my entire practice with, which usually deals with the past, the present, and the future, and how they kind of like collapse upon each other, right? Um, and that video was initially part of a performance that I made, and kind of like just became this video. So in the performance, I interacted with the audience, and it was the audience who kind of like said those words out loud, the ones that are the subtitles in the video. And kind of like working through the process of the making the artwork is kind of like that I arrived at, oh, maybe this doesn't necessarily need to be something that people like interact with. It's probably something that people just need to see. And I think the reason why what I want people to, when they look at the video, it's kind of interesting how we deal with text. I feel that anytime that we read something, I can tell you, I can show you a text, but for me, it might mean something. For me, it comes from the place that I experienced this thing that I wrote. But for you, depending on the situation that you're currently living in, it might mean something completely different. I think that's the reason why I kind of like put the subtitles, and I don't actually like have a voice over the video, because I don't want people to hear my voice. I want people to read it, in their head with their own voice. And it's like, what happens when you read this and you say it inside of your body? Like, does it take you anywhere? Does it remind you of something? And kind of like a lot of those phrases for me, I remember writing them. For me, are very personal, and they were in a very difficult time of my life, and so I know where they come from. So I'm always kind of curious every time people watch the film. It's like, what did you feel? What happened? And there's that ongoing thing about my practice, that I always like want to give something, but I am curious to know what would be the outcome of what people feel, but I never go that far to ask. It's like, all right, he's like, here's that, see what you're gonna do with it, so.
Well, water is certainly a medium for those kinds of opportunities. And you spoke, Luis, about art, I guess more so in a visual context. In terms of the cinematography, Nina, you were very clear. In these spiritual practices, there's no in between. It's either this or it's that. So you had black and white. You've spoken about the archival nature of the story that you're telling. You were rooted from the beginning of your film. Whereas on the other hand, Luis, you took a softer approach in your melancholy as you expressed your loss. You had very soft colors, very calm waters. Talk to us a little bit about your choices in terms of the cinematography and elemental natures of the universe.
I think that is very specific shot of that video is in a very specific place in Trinidad. It's like it's not necessarily the north coast; it's the west coast, like looking towards Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela, so Venezuela is like 7 miles away from Trinidad and Tobago. So for me, but also there's that thing about that very specific coastline at the west of Trinidad. But but also during that time, I usually walk around the same time, like around 5:30, and I used to sit there for a period of, I don't know, like a year. I always used to do the same thing during the week, and it was that moment of like calmness, and I can sit, and I sat there with my thoughts, and it was sometimes in those moments that I used to write these words, or I used to write these words and just go and sit in this place. As like, you need to calm down, you need to relax. And it's kind of interesting for me, like thinking about water, thinking about my brother, but also thinking about water and be in this place that I can just sit and be calm. Like, so, and that's one of the reasons why I chose this very specific time of the day. Is like when the sun goes down and it creates that very that mirage in the water, and then there's these tight shots in slow motion where I kind of like blur out the water, and what I want people to focus on is like these white spectacles that looks like it's almost like shining, because the wider shot doesn't do that for me. So, and that's the reason why I kind of like I talk about diamonds. So I want to see like people like experience like these shines coming through and have like their time to kind of like take that in. That's one of the reasons why there's only like 3 shots in the video. There's like the wide shot, the tight shot, and then there's the next tight shot, and that's it. Like there's not too much variation.
Yeah.
You know, you have to intake these like 4 or 5 minutes of video of these like these long shots, and while you watch the sunset go down very slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was very effective, I thought. Very effective. And you as well, Nina, in terms of the point that you were making that had a different energy altogether. Share with us how your cinematography illustrated pieces of the whole and pieces of the whole, the individual, the collective, all intertwined together.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, the water or the ocean, those 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 images using shots from the ocean is going to be powerful and resonate for people in very personal ways, and also in ways that are, you know, like larger than life, simply because, as we've been talking about throughout this, you know, the ocean is this place for everyone, where like we have we're like 80% water in our bodies, so there's going to be resonance. For the film, Toshi Sakai and I worked together, and we used primarily images that had been archived and taken from Portobello in Panama, because Toshi has spent a lot of time shooting there. And so when we decided that we wanted to go with ocean shots, and they were mostly morning shots, you know, early in the day shots from Portobello, which also has an interesting connection in the diaspora when you think about the Panama Canal and Black and brown labor used to build that canal, and how many people died in the process. And we also had images and stills from the Atlantic Ocean up here in the Rockaways. And we kind of, you know, edited images of me over the ocean, so that you were always seeing me through the lens of the water, and also at the root of a very beautiful tree, as if I'm actually like kind of inspired by Ana Mendieta, for people who are familiar with Ana Mendieta as a visual artist. But I was kind of immersed in the roots of the tree. And so again, it's like like Louise, we didn't use a lot of images. There were a lot of repetitions, and then, you know, me just kind of reciting this invocation, this incantation and prayer, as being kind of the driving force, with the ocean consistently pushing it forward.
Yes, I could feel and see all of that in both of the things that you're saying to me, or in what both of you are saying to me. I'm wondering though, do you want people, and you spoke to this a little bit earlier, Nina, do you want people to take away a lesson, to take away a resolve from these films, or do you want them to just drink in the moment, in the time that we have left?
Well, I want people to call on their ancestors by the time, they reach the end of this film, to feel that their ancestors have been called along, with the names of the many other ancestors. And I'm hoping that it inspires people, to feel a sense of personal and shared power in a time where we can really be awash and overwhelmed, you know.
Yes. And so, Louise, your surrender, though, has power of its own. What do you want people to walk away with, or to observe or absorb in the moment there at the sea with you?
I think for me, it's like it's like it's like that repetition of that same moment that I lived throughout. I want
Yeah.
people like to have that same sensations, like sit and look at the sea. Like I remember, like during the performance, the first time that I did it, I told everybody, "Let's watch the sunset." And we all stood there and we saw the sunset all together, which for me it was like it was kind of like made me tear it up, because I remember those moments when I used to watch the sunset. But then the first time I did the performance, it was a small group of people, that I care and love, and having all of them with me was so powerful, so emotional, that it didn't feel like that moment again. Like that moment's never going to repeat itself again. So this is me sharing those sunsets with everybody.
Yeah, that's so
So
beautiful. That's so beautiful, because you're right. It's the now. We might all be in the same place tomorrow, but it'll be a different time.
Yeah.
So right now is what it is. I know that you have more fans now than you had before. I feel that people might want to stick with you and delve a little deeper into this film and other work that you offer. How can people follow you? How can people find you? What's your social media handles?
I can be found at Nina Angela Mercer on Instagram.
Okay.
and you can find me at Vasquez La Roche on Instagram.
Well, we are definitely going to be looking for you. All who are watching with us today can find me at EFS Inc. on Instagram. Let's continue to be fast friends and show some emotion and put it out there for people. This is the time, and we're the people. Thank you so much for sharing some of your time today, your spirit, mainly your spirit, and what you've given to all of us as a beautiful gift in your films. We are happy that you're a part of the Africana Film Festival this year. Africana #5. Let's do it.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
Thank you again so much.
Bye.